Had I not mentioned that I would do this, even if the world ended, I would have left because I've never in my life had to deal with such ridiculous people ever. So I'm gonna make this clear as day. I don't hate Tanzania.
Focus, man.
Are we starting now?
Yeah, we are. All right, everyone. Welcome to the channel. Once again, this is your man, Jay Focus, reminding you to stay focused. And today we have a very special guest. This young man has been living in Africa for the last 3 years plus now, okay? 3 and some change. So this man he's actually my senior. Even though the baby face, he's my senior when it comes to Africa because I've been here a few times before this gentleman, but I've never stayed here continuously until this year. So if you don't know and you're new to the channel, I'm going to stay on the continent for 1 year minimum. It could be for the rest of my life. We're going to see where it goes, but if you stay tuned to the channel, you're going to get all the information here. So go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, hit the like button because you know it's going to be fire, and we're going to get this thing started off right. So first we're going to ask a little bit about this man's background now. He and I, even though we may seem very different, we actually have one big thing in common, and that is that we both lived in the city of Las Vegas, Nevada, in the States, right? And very few Americans have spent any considerable time there beyond playing with the slot machines and, you know, losing their money. So first off, I want to know what it was like for you to grow up in a city that most people don't kind of feel that is artificial.
I don't know. To me, it was a normal place because I didn't know anywhere but Las Vegas.
True.
Yeah, the first time I traveled was when I was a bit older.
Okay.
Yeah. So I hadn't really seen anywhere but Vegas. To me, I thought every city was like that.
Exactly.
Obviously, I knew there were differences, but they were similar.
And did you hear like about the reputation of Vegas when you were growing up? You know, when you were a teenager? No?
Not really.
Not much?
Yeah.
You didn't hear about what happens in Vegas, stays in Vegas?
Oh, yeah, the stereotypical stuff, of course.
Okay.
But in terms of the darker stuff, no.
Okay. What was your peer group like in Las Vegas?
I didn't hang out around people. I love people, but I couldn't understand them well enough to want to be around them long term.
Okay.
I was to myself. Friendly as ever. I talked to everyone, but I couldn't be around them long term.
Yeah, that's one thing I would say that really stands out about this brother here is his friendliness, his maturity, and just the eyes that he uses to see the world and the way he puts things together. I feel that it's very unique in this YouTube space, and not only in the YouTube space, but just in general among people of his generation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I have a very specific question. If you want, you can speak a little bit about your background in Africa. I don't want to ask you the same questions you've been asked a million times, but if you just want to give them like the short version of you know, what you've been doing the last few years in Africa.
Okay. I can summarize it. 3 years ago, I left Las Vegas and I came to Africa. I was 19 at the time, and I never left. So that's the short version.
Okay, where specifically in Africa? That might be a little too short.
The first country I visited was Tanzania.
Okay, Tanzania is on the east coast of Africa, if you don't know. Many people have heard of Zanzibar, which is a small island off the coast, and that island belongs to Tanzania. It's part of Tanzania. So were you based on that island at any time?
I've been there 9 times, I think, but I never based anything from there.
Okay, so you were there for short trips. You never had a residence on Zanzibar?
No.
Okay, understood.
But I do like, if I had to choose to be anywhere in terms of mentality between Tanzania and Zanzibar, I think I choose Zanzibar. But what I was doing wasn't for Zanzibar, it was for mainland. Oh, I thought that was for us.
Yeah, so we're waiting right now to get our meal. So, you know, you got to forgive us if the energy levels are a little bit low because I haven't eaten this morning. I don't know if you've eaten.
No, I was getting my airline ticket changed so I could spend a little more time in Uganda.
Yeah, so currently we're in the city of Kampala in Uganda, and this is his first time here. So although he's been in Africa for several years, primarily in the eastern part of Africa, he's never been to Uganda, so it's all new to him.
Yeah.
And so we can speak about that a little bit. What are your first impressions of Uganda, and how does that contrast? How does Tanzania contrast with Uganda?
Ooh, I could go on for a long time about that.
Let's do 12 minutes on it then. I'll give you a timer.
I don't want to make it a negative comparison, so I'll talk about some of the more positive differences.
Okay.
I'd say here people speak a lot more English, so it's easier to communicate. I also think that they have a lot more food options. Like, I can't find this over there.
Oh my God. See, I haven't been to Tanzania yet. He's scaring me. He's telling me like all the things that are missing. I mean, but it's honesty, and I appreciate it. I'm still going to go.
Yeah,
but I want to
people-
go knowing that in advance, you know?
Yeah, O'Shea actually said he didn't want to go anymore because of what I told him.
Yeah.
But I can't lie. There's positive and negative wherever you go. There's good and bad in every country, every color, every culture. And so if you ignore all the bad and then go to a place, you essentially find yourself surprised at some of the negative things you'll notice. One thing that I do like about Tanzania is the fact that it has so many challenges that it tests to see who you really are.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I had to, y'all don't know, I went through such a negative phase in that country. When you give your heart to a place and that place steps on it, you feel bad.
Sure. That's
I learned their
natural.
language, I learned their culture, I learned I put business there, I put money there, I put, everything. I blew that country up. People were coming, and then I saw how they were treating the people who were coming. The people who come from where we come from, and I said, wow, this is terrible. I had old ladies being punched by immigration officers. There were people being mishandled. One guy, he went there, he got put in jail, his wife died. It's just all these negative things were happening to the point where I said, this is not a place I want to be.
Yeah, not to cut you off or anything, but I just noticed so many similarities between some elements of your story and my story, because you at 19, you packed up your bags and you fell in love, so to speak, with Africa. You immerse yourself in the culture. You learn the language, which I gotta applaud you for that. And I did the same thing, but not for Africa. I did it for Latin America. When I was 19, I was so in love with Latin culture. I lived in Spanish-speaking countries. I learned the language. I was so immersed in the culture, and I had so much optimism about it, because I think leaving the U.S. Structure, you want to find something different. You want to find something better. You want to find something that accepts you more than what you're used to back home.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, you can be, I don't want to say brainwashed, but like led astray to believe that it's all roses in whatever new culture that you find, whether that's African culture, Asian culture, Spanish culture, what have you. But then after time, the cracks start revealing themselves, and I feel like I went through a similar process with you. And I would never regret the time that I spent learning Spanish and living in those cultures. But at the same time, I can't look at it and ignore so many things that are wrong about the culture. And these are deep things that would take many years to change structurally, and they really left a bad taste in my mouth. Now, I'm not going to throw off the good completely with the bad, but I will be honest and recognize the bad and not give you just the clouds in the sky perspective.
I think that's a really fair way to put it. A lot of people don't actually understand the value in negativity. Sometimes we as content creators, and I don't know if you've experienced this, when we start mentioning some of the more negative aspects of it being in a place, people will actually, I don't know if it's because they have a desire to go to those places, so they don't want their bubble burst.
Sure.
When you burst their bubble, they get offended. But sometimes it's just that, especially with me, I have a business that deals with getting people over here, taking care of them when they're here. Thank you. You have a spoon or a fork?
Two.
Okay, give me that fork. Thank you.
Yeah. Food just arrived, so you guys know.
So this is chicken.
Do we need to pause for the cause, or
No, I'll take one bite.
Okay.
You don't mind me eating?
No, brother. Do you?
Not bad.
Did you lose your train of thought, or are you still with it? 'Cause I know food is distracting, especially when it smells so good.
Yeah. I should have got the dang steak.
Yeah?
Yeah. I already regret it. That's a lot,
you
too.
have
I'm
another
going to have to pack
opportunity.
that up.
Yeah, we can come through another time.
Yeah. Okay, but yeah, a lot of people don't want to hear the negative with the good. Because it's not that we hate the place. I don't know, I'll speak for myself, but I think it applies to you too. When we speak badly about these places, not because we hate them, it's because we love them so much that we can't stand to see what we saw.
Yeah, and I don't even really categorize it as speaking bad. I feel like it's just speaking honestly and speaking plainly without, adding a whole bunch of honey on top of it and just saying, look, this is what it is. This is not right. We need to do better.
Yeah.
And some people may feel that speaking, negatively or bad, but I feel like it's just being honest, and it's like a relationship or with a child. I mean, you could give a child nothing but praise and no constructive feedback, and look at what the results will be, because they'll think that they're perfect, they can do no wrong. If you do a little bit of if you get a little bit of reflection from outside folk, outside commentary, it's going to challenge you. And in the beginning, no one likes to be confronted, no matter what it is. But you can grow from it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what like real love and real, because it's not always love, but any relationship where there's a fair exchange and it's positive, you are going to have those kind of discussions.
Yeah, I think a lot of people could benefit from accepting constructive criticism.
Absolutely.
And I noticed it especially in Africa. You've been to more places than me by far.
On the continent, or just in
general?
Okay, on the continent, I think we're tied. But
you've been to a lot more places than me. So you have something to compare the continent
Sure, absolutely.
to.
So
one thing I noticed in the continent is that people are so adverse to any form of criticism. Like when I was in Tanzania, if you said something slightly negative or sounds negative, it could be as true as the day.
Sure.
But if you said that, people would shut down.
They don't want to hear it from the corner, no.
Somebody told me that in South Africa. Yeah. A lady told me that the reason people are actually adverse to listening to the advice, though it's sound advice, is because a foreigner said it to them.
Exactly.
Which is pride. Which is ridiculous, because then we can't look at other countries and say they're the solution. We can't look at America and say it's the problem. We have so many people that came to Africa because they hated America. Imagine you're breaking up with someone and then you get with someone and say, I'm only with you because I didn't like them.
Yes,
how do
like,
they feel? Yeah. So a lot of people didn't come to Africa because they wanted to love Africa. They just didn't like where they were, and then they came here. I didn't leave because I hated America. We can have our issues, but you have to be happy wherever you go.
Absolutely.
You have to make it work wherever you go. Again, there's good and bad in every country, every color, every culture. So if you can't accept where you come from, you're going to be humbled when you go somewhere else. So many people that I talked to over 3 years have left Africa, and these are the people who had nothing good to say about America. They're back in America. Wow. Because they couldn't take what was here.
Sure.
They thought that was the worst in the bottom of the barrel. Yeah. And in some ways it is, but in some ways it's not.
Very true.
So when you have to deal with certain things that you wouldn't have to deal with there, right? Over here, if a police pulls you out of your car and beats the hell out of you, forgive my language.
No,
you can't sue them. No. In the States, you might have a lawsuit.
Yeah.
So just as one example, you do not have the same privileges here as you do in America. A lot of Americans don't realize how good you actually have it. You may have certain freedoms outside of America. That's what people like, but you also have a lot of stuff you have to deal with. Negative things that don't work, systems that aren't what you're used to, unspoken rules, cultural differences that you may not be able to adapt to. So I think a lot of people would benefit from seeing more places, but not with a mindset of I hate where I come from. Go see more places because you want to see more places. Don't go because you just hate where you are, because you're going to find yourself hating everywhere you go. And I'm only saying that because, again, I talked to at least 100 people that were in Tanzania and Gambia and Ghana, and all these people were calling or messaging or emailing, and they had these problems. And I said, these are the same problems. Every country, and the way they're describing their experience there, I said, this is the same as over here, and this is the same as they're experiencing over here. So
what is the common denominator?
It's the person.
It's
the mentality of ungratefulness to where you are. And it's not to say that everything is perfect in America, but it's to say that if you don't like where you are, go somewhere else. But don't let that be the only reason you're there.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
I'm going to pause for the cause.
Okay, what's the next question?
All right, we're back to the show. You guys got to forgive us. We were starving, had to demolish this food.
Yeah.
It was on point. I got satisfied, and it's hard to satisfy me. I'm kind of picky sometimes. I don't know if this brother is picky, but he enjoyed his food as well.
It was alright.
It's alright, yeah. Okay. I'm not sure exactly where we left off. I wanted to ask you about siblings. Did you have any older brothers or something growing up? Because you seem very well polished.
Yeah, I had siblings. We didn't interact though. So I say yes and no.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's more or less
How you
like.
doing? Yeah, thank you. There you go. Oh no.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. What are you apologizing for?
So it's more or less like you were raised alone, even though you did have siblings. Is that correct?
Yeah, a lot of my sisters, they're much older than I am. I think my oldest one is maybe in her 40s.
Okay, yeah, that's a big age gap. I can understand that. So I want to get into shift the topic slightly.
Yeah.
Because you grew up in the States. You didn't spend much of your adulthood, I would say, in the States. What is it like for you being in Africa and interacting with women romantically and in dating mode, I would say, for lack of a better word?
That's a surprise question.
Yeah, I like to hear one.
Typically, I leave love off the camera, but for the sake of the question, I will say
Yeah,
that
you don't have to say any names, man. I don't need any social security numbers or addresses, but
I will say that I focus so much on business that I haven't looked too much into romantic things. I'd say in terms of a good solid relationship, I look for a very deep connection, something a lot of modern women can't provide.
gotcha.
And so if I do find it, it's either in a very, very simple person, and I don't mean simple like stupid, I just mean less on their mind,
Yes.
or a very, very sophisticated person.
Understood.
Nothing in between. Unfortunately, a lot of our generation, they're not the best in terms of mentality.
Okay, well, how would you describe, or what do you think about the energy from the women that you've encountered in East Africa, or anywhere in Africa, honestly, since you've been to a bunch of different places?
It's hard to say because it really does vary depending on where you look. I'd say village women are very different than city women, and city women are very different from, high class, low class. You have a different mentality for each group of women. I don't know. I'm not big on that topic. Because again, my focus is business.
Sure.
But I will say that, it's
I don't
the
want to get
typical.
into your personal business too much.
Yeah, it's the typical money. I had a woman just before I came here to Uganda. I was at a restaurant in downtown. It was next to a place called Al Kabir. I forget what it's called, but it's right around the corner from Al Kabir. And this woman said, "I love you," and I was like, "No, you don't." She's like, "Yes, I do. It's for real." I said, "But you don't know me and I don't know you. I was just eating at this restaurant."
Okay, was she messing with you, or
No,
she was trying to be serious?
Well, I mean, she wasn't dead serious.
Yeah.
But a lot of what they do is just it's a very superficial way to love someone. It's a good way to get things going, but I don't like it because it never goes deeper than that. I think a lot of people are stuck at a certain level and they want to stay there. It's how can I use this person for some sort of resource to get ahead in life, to do this. It's not everybody, but it's the same problem in the States. You have women are a certain way and men are a certain way, and it's just this modern day has created a certain situation in which men and women are shallow. I don't like shallow people. Shallow people are hard for me to be around because there's no depth.
And I know we don't have to speak specifically on your situation, but since you've been in Tanzania for as long as you have, you've seen so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
So just any particular things you've seen, for example, with American men who come to Tanzania, are they getting what they were assuming they would get, or are you seeing them falling into certain traps, or anything that you're seeing consistently with them where they're expecting one thing and they're getting something different, or are they finding what they're looking for? What have you observed as far as that?
Now, in the 3 years that I've been in Tanzania, off and on, I don't notice it too much. Again, my focus is something else.
Sure.
So what I hear when I do hear it is, there's a lot of men that travel. Maybe they want sex or something.
Sure.
So they're going to these different countries. That's what they're doing. Maybe they're finding what they want, but I know they've had better luck in other countries.
Okay.
And I think that's the case with a lot. In terms of doing business, you have better luck in most other countries. Tanzania is not the best place to do a lot of things. There's just not enough of an understanding of cultures outside of their own.
Sure.
The language barrier, there's a cultural barrier, there's a governmental barrier because they really don't like you getting things done there. There's a lot of things that are going to prohibit you from what you say getting what you want. Whether it's business, romantically, it's a lot of things. I've noticed people have, like I said, better luck in other places.
Yeah, I was going to say, I
Not
remember...
saying you can't. I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't want to leave it at that. Not saying you can't, but I know that it's a bit more difficult there than in other places. And it might be easier in certain other ways. Like, if you go to the places where people are used to doing that, like a lot of the Europeans,
sure,
they'll go over there and they have great luck. Chinese too. But it's typically because they understand how the people are thinking. In terms of brothers, I think they're figuring it out.
Yeah, I was going to say, I had watched the video that you did with Austin Holloman, and he's definitely more in the dating side of content creation. I'm curious what you maybe have heard from him as far as what Tanzania was lacking compared to other places in Africa.
Not much, actually. We didn't talk too much about it, to be honest with you. I mean, I
don't
know
think he was a fan of it very much.
I don't know. I just
didn't
know.
Stick around long enough.
Well, he hasn't gone back, I don't think.
You guys were kicking it just a few days? Dar, something like that?
We didn't hang out too much, to be honest. I think what we do is just too different. Sometimes, because he's into the whole, again, you're talking to somebody who's there for business and uplifting our people.
Absolutely.
And trying to make a better future and that kind of stuff. And some people are there to maybe just get into relationships and all that.
Sure.
I don't get it right now.
It's a big gap.
It's hard for me to understand his perspective. I get it enough, but he didn't talk about it too much. It's like I didn't tell him a whole lot about our interests are too different. Love the brother, but our interests are just too different. I think he didn't like it though because he hasn't come back. So I think he found better. That's what I was saying when people are finding better luck elsewhere, because it's easier to get what they're looking for elsewhere. And I can sort of see why. Just looking at the mentality overall, it is a lot easier to do things in other places. I think Tanzania doesn't have a lot to offer people business-wise. And I mean, it does in the sense that there's so much opportunity because there's so little, but it doesn't in the sense that, is it worth the roadblocks? For most people, it's not. Yeah. For most people, it's not. Yeah, it takes a very special type of mind to want to do something there.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's very honest.
Out of the other places, like even here in Uganda, I've been here 4 days now, 5 days, and it's a lot different. You have restaurants where you can order food that's a little higher quality. You have a delivery service that works a little better. You have roads that seem to be those ones I can say are a little bit different. But the mentality of the people seems to be a little better. They understand English a little more, so
true.
It's easier to get things done here. So far, it looks like in Tanzania.
Okay, very clear answer. I appreciate that.
Same with Zambia. Same with I think almost everywhere else I've been. Actually,
could you tell me what the biggest lesson or your biggest takeaway from your time in Tanzania? What was that?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've told this story a few times.
Okay.
The value of negativity. I think Tanzania taught me that sometimes you have to adjust how you see a person if you don't want to hate them. Because Tanzania, I tell you, I learned the language, I learned the culture, I went and lived with the people, and I did everything for them, right? In terms of, giving yourself to a place. And then what I received back was just this bitter, negative, angry. They were treating our people like garbage. They were, all these problems and issues. And some of it was us, but some of it was them. And I thought to myself, what on earth is this? And eventually I had to decide, do I want to be I'm making it a real short story.
Yeah,
but I had to decide, do I want to be a negative person or do I want to be a positive person? Because that place is working on me. Never in my life have I had issues with people like that. I never had issues in America. I never had issues in any place I've gone. But that place gave me the most issues. And I think it's because I wanted to do the most there. So when you want to change a place, it's going to resist.
Absolutely.
When you want to go be a tourist, when you want to look around, it's a beautiful place to go. But when you have a plan to put something in place that'll help the people and help our people and make it easier for us to interact with one another, bridge the gap, there's resistance there.
Yeah.
Because people profit from broken systems. People design these systems in Africa to be exactly the way they are, broken, because there's so much room for them to take when there's things that don't work. So those people have everything to gain by making sure you don't succeed. That's what I learned in Tanzania, is that you might have to readjust the way you see a person fundamentally if you want to have peace in a place. I started saying, is my peace, is my love, and is my joy worth an argument with a person? See, I'm a man that was raised on principles and integrity, values. That's something I didn't see in large numbers there. In a culture where it's okay to, do something corrupt, it's okay. It's expected. It's actually seen as a good thing.
It's the norm.
It's the normal. Especially these Muslims and these Christians who don't even believe what they say. Because the same person that will leave the mosque will go to their shop and steal from their customer. And the same person that will leave the church will go to their neighborhood and then hate on their neighbor. Those people taught me that people are not what they say they are. And it taught me in a way that was practical. Because obviously I knew this. We all know that there's liars in the world. But what I learned being there was that these people have, not these people like Tanzanians, but people on earth have normalized pretending to be something they're not. It's a culture full of lies, and unfortunately, it makes it very difficult to do things there. You don't know how many families I've spoken to who have left that country, who sold everything in America, and then couldn't make it there because the mentality was too hard to get around. And anybody who spoke badly about it, guess what? They were called negative. Guess what happened to the people who came, who wanted to see things through a rose-colored lens? They went back because they didn't want the truth. They just wanted to know that there was a place they can go to that wasn't America. Because they left with so much hatred and bitterness and pain in their heart that the new place wasn't actually a place they loved. They just didn't like the place they came from. So of course they didn't succeed. One thing I learned about Tanzania was you have to be you regardless of who they are. You have to remain who you are. If you're a peaceful, loving, and happy person, remain that. Nobody's worth that from you. Because on a spiritual level, they want your joy, they want your love, they want your peace. On a physical level, they want your money, yes. They want your time. They don't know what they're doing, but spiritually they do. The spirit, the demon, whatever you want to call it, that is controlling these people, knows what it's doing. It's a test for you to see, are you who you are? That's what I learned in Tanzania, was that you have to be who you are regardless of who they are. Because I've never in my life been around such people with a mentality that was so, and I don't want to sound mean, but I'm being honest, ridiculous. Or you could say something to somebody 5 times and then they do it wrong. I had somebody install an outlet upside down. And I looked, and I was so calm at first. I said, do you see any issue with this? And he's looking, and he's like, they have a deadness to their eyes. This is something a lot of people say. This is not hateful, this is truthful. There's a deadness in the eyes. It's like a blank look. Yeah. And they're like, I don't know. And I say, it's upside down. Oh, okay. And then, can you pay me now? And I'm like, oh, God.
Oh, my God.
There's a level of...
I'm frustrated just hearing this.
I got a lot of stories from that place.
Sounds like that place add ages to your life.
Oh, yeah, I got stressed. Guys, y'all, I didn't have these wrinkles before I came to Africa. I didn't have it. I lost a lot of weight in Tanzania. A lot. I didn't even notice I was getting skinnier because I was so focused on doing the business.
Sure.
The only thing that kept me in Tanzania was the fact that I said I would finish what I started. I put a project there. I had to finish it. That's the only thing that kept me there because I'm a man of my word. Anything else, I would have been gone. Had I not mentioned that I would do this, even if the world ended, I would have left because I've never in my life had to deal with such ridiculous people, ever. And that was a test for me, and it's a test for everybody going there, that you need to be you. And if you really are who you are, you'll remain that even when all these situations come and, test you. And I mean, there's more to it, but I don't want to get into it too much.
Well, appreciate that, brother. I can feel the passion, I can feel the frustration, and it's obvious that anyone with eyes and ears that you've really gone through it in Tanzania and that you had love for the place and you put your all into it and you're continuing to put your all in it.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna make that play.
To finish up what you started.
I got to. I'm sorry.
No, go.
If I have to say this, because people don't hear you when you speak sometimes, so I'm not saying you. I'm saying me. And anybody on YouTube, we're selective with what we hear. So I'm going to make this clear as day. I don't hate Tanzania. All of what I just said
It's
not enough for me to say I'm done with the place.
I'm going to title this "Why Mark Hates Tanzania." No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't do you like that.
I don't hate the place. I don't hate the people. I don't hate the place. What I understand is it's a mentality that they've been kind of put under. In my mind, it makes no sense, but to them it does. And some of them understand it doesn't make sense either.
Sure.
They just won't admit it. But I think there's hope for a place like that because my mother called me. She said, "The light doesn't go where there's already light," and that told me everything I need to know. Because I prayed. I'm not religious, but I do believe in God. And I said, "Why on earth would you send me here?" Because I felt when I was 19, it was something told me go to Africa, and so I got up and left. And it was Tanzania I went to, and I know I was supposed to go there because that voice doesn't lie. It hasn't lied to me my whole life. And I got there, and then, a year and a half, 2 years later, I started to see what the place was, right? I started taking off the rose-colored glass. I said, wait a second now. Why would you send me here?
I feel like we're at where we're supposed to be, as basic as that sounds. As you speak to that voice that told you to go to Africa, in 2019, in the summertime, there was a voice that told me, now is the time to travel the world, Jay. And I said, why? Like, why now? Why not wait till next year? It said, no, now you want to do your around the world trip now. And I said, okay, I'm going to follow this voice. And so, as I was telling you earlier off camera, I was finally able to visit Australia, which is a place that I'd wanted to visit since I was 7 years old, maybe even younger than that. And I finally got to go there in 2020. And we all know what happened in 2020. I was literally on the last plane to leave Australia before they shut the gate. Since they pulled the drawbridge up like a medieval gate, they said no one else can come in the country for almost 2 entire years. It was a now or never thing. And had that voice not told me, like, go now, don't even worry about why, I'm telling you, go now, I would have never been able to go there and kind of come full circle from that child who was 7 and always had that dream to go. And I feel like it'll never be the same as what it was before that event in 2020. So yeah, I can relate to having that voice that pushes you forward to make you act when you don't have all the information, but you just gotta follow that stronger feeling that comes from outside of you, because it didn't come from me. I can tell you that much. It didn't come from me. Now, I want to ask you, can you tell me 5 countries that you would like to visit? It doesn't have to be Africa, because I know you're going to see a lot of Africa over these next couple of years. You're going to look back on this video in 2035 and be like, I remember when we said I was going to go there, and and then that nuclear war happened, and I ended up, bunkering in Madagascar for 8 years, and whatever happens. But
I'd say, I have an interest for everywhere in the world. Okay. I'm not so pro-Africa that I can't see the rest of the world.
Exactly.
So my issue...
Not to cut you off, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
I don't want to cut you off. But that's another thing, too, is when I first started my channel, I had the most attention on my African videos originally. And, I love my African audience. Nothing wrong with that. And also the brothers in the States who are super curious about Africa. But I never wanted to be seen as, just the guy who's only going to travel in Africa. I'm a global citizen, for lack of a better word. I feel like I was put on the planet. I wasn't put on, whatever state or city I was born in America. That's irrelevant. This whole planet was, part of my birthright, Africa more so. But, I will continue to travel around the globe, even though Africa will always have my heart. And Africa is always a special place. But continue.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I'd say that I'm not adverse to other places as well. I chose here because something told me to come here first. So Africa was the first continent I traveled to. Middle East is on my list. You said 5. I'm gonna give you the 5 continents. Middle East, Asia's on there. Eventually Europe. I'd say there's a beauty everywhere you go.
Any order?
Not necessarily. Okay. I'd say maybe a practical order in terms of places nearby. But
so you would lean so when you need a break from Africa, are you going to lean first more towards Europe or something else?
East, that whole continent. Because that's probably the one that'll get cut off the soonest.
That makes sense. Yeah, with the future. Yeah,
I'd like to even visit there. Sense. Yeah, it'd be nice to see every place on Earth. Every single place has its own beauty. The nature. Somebody tried to tell me, Africa has the most beautiful thing. I said I've seen forests in America that are more beautiful than some places I've seen in certain countries. It'd be wrong of me to say that there's only beauty in one continent because the people look like me.
Absolutely.
That's a little
disingenuous.
Yeah, it's not honest because there's beauty everywhere. Nature is nature. We didn't make it. So there's beauty everywhere. The world is ours, like you said.
Yeah.
I can't add much more to that. I just agree with what you said.
Sure. Well, I appreciate your time, and I guess we can wrap this one up. And so until next time, this is your man Jay Focus reminding you to stay focused.
Of yours, such thing as a life that's better than yours. Love